What's going on, everybody? It's Derek here again, back with Dog Media, and we're going to be going over the afternoon games today, picking up right where we left off yesterday. We finished talking about my start of the week and Anthony Richardson, and our final game that we went over was the Houston Texans versus Indiana Colts. Today, we're going to get right into it with the New York Giants traveling to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. The over-under is 39.5. The Giants coming off a poor showing last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Well, poor is really an understatement. Put up a big old goose egg, and the Dallas defense just absolutely dominated. I don't think that's the case this week. I think it's a get right game for all parties involved. I think that Saquon Barkley has a big bounce back game this week. I think he has over 100 yards on the ground. Arizona Cardinals defense is really poor in their own right. I do believe that Daniel Jones has a really good game. I'm not trusting any New York Giants pass catchers except Darren Waller if he plays. I know he's questionable. They said he's going to play. I haven't checked the injury report for Friday, so I'm not sure what that is looking like for him, but be sure to monitor that this morning to just guarantee that he's going to be out there. The San Francisco 49ers travel to LA to take on the Rams. This is an interesting matchup because the Rams absolutely dominated the Seahawks last week, starting the year with two back to back division games. Look for Matthew Stafford to push the ball down the field to attack this 49ers defense. They're in a situation to where they have to go all out this year. They don't have many assets for next year in terms of draft capital. They're still in a win now state. I don't see them trading anyone. So look for them to come out and attack, just like they did last week against Seattle. Puka Nakua, I would start him this week just because you probably spent a lot of fab on him or burned waiver priority to pick him up. So go ahead and start him, and he should give you decent enough numbers in a PPR league. In a standard league, that changes. I'm not starting him, or I'm not as excited to start him in a standard league. In a PPR league, he should still get enough targets and catches to be fantasy relevant. Cam Akers and Kyron Williams, I benched both of those guys this week. The 49ers rush defense is way too good. Next, the New York Jets travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. This is not going to be as an exciting matchup as it would have been had Aaron Rodgers been active. Dallas defense can look to capitalize on Zach Wilson's turnover habits. I think that Brees Hall is a decent enough flex play. If he's playing this week, you play him. Dalvin Cook, I'm not as excited to play him as I am Brees Hall. Brees Hall is just more explosive and has the ability to break big runs at a higher rate than Dalvin Cook would. On the Cowboys side of the ball, Tony Pollard, Dak Prescott. I wouldn't start Jake Ferguson this week. It's a really good Jets defense, and I wouldn't start Brandon Cooks or Michael Gallup. Next, the Washington Commanders travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. Over under is 38.5. The Washington Commanders looked decent last week against the Arizona Cardinals. I think that game was a lot closer than it should have been. I think that they win this game against Denver. I think Denver is getting Jerry Judy back, which he'll be on a pitch count. So even if he plays and you have him, I'm not starting him this week. I'm waiting until I see that he can play full game with regular snaps before I'm comfortable putting him in my lineup. Cortland Sutton, he's a start. Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine probably this week are both viable starts. Samaje Perine more so in a deeper league. Big Albert O for Denver is a spot start if you need to in a 16 team league or a 14 team league. I wouldn't in anything less than that. There are more viable options. We talked about Luke Musgrave yesterday. He's a start that I'm looking over any other streaming option this week if you don't have one of the top end tight ends. For the Commanders, if you haven't already, go ahead and cut Antonio Gibson. I don't think he's going to be viable this year. Brian Robinson Jr. got the bulk of the carries. I think it's his backfield to lose. Start Jahan Dotson, start Terry McLaurin. And I think the Denver Broncos defense is a really good start this week as well. And for Sunday night football, Miami travels to New England to take on the Patriots. Mac Jones looked really good last week against a pretty top end defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is a closer game than the scorebook suggests at 46.5. Although the Miami Dolphins are only 2.5 point favorites. I think that line is great. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think that The New England Patriots might come away with the upset this week. I like Hunter Henry, Ramondre, of course. Ezekiel Elliott will get some goal line touches. He's touchdown dependent only this week. Don't look for the volume from him. Keishon Butte is someone that you want to keep an eye on. Had pretty much the most snaps out of any other wide receiver on the Patriots offense last week. So keep an eye on him. I know he didn't record a catch. He was targeted 4 times. That's just someone to keep an eye on. On the Dolphins side of the ball, you're starting Mostert, you're starting Waddle, and you're starting Hill, and that's about it. And starting Tua, of course, but for the skill position players, that's all you're starting. And Monday night, we have a double header. First, we have the New Orleans Saints traveling to North Carolina to take on the Panthers. Over under is 39.5, with the New Orleans Saints being 3-point favorites. I think Rashid Shaheed is a great flex play this week. I think that he might outscore Michael Thomas and Jamal Williams both. I think he is an interesting flex play. And if you watch my waiver wire targets, he was coming in at number fifth right there just because of Puka Nakua. That's the only reason he wasn't any higher. I think Rashid Shaheed is a solid play in deeper leagues and even 10-team leagues. He might be a sleeper play if you're dealing with injuries. On the Carolina side of the ball, you want to start Miles Sanders. I don't trust any other pass catcher except Hayden Hurst. I think he's, like I said before, the most reliable target for Bryce Young. I think he's going to get targeted a bunch in this game, and I think he gets into the end zone again. Any other wide receiver, I'm not comfortable starting yet, not until they show me that they are capable of handling a high target rate or becoming an alpha. The only person I believe in that wide receiver room that has the ability to do that is Jonathan Mingo, and he just hasn't proved it yet. So just keep an eye out for him. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in a division game. This week is full of divisional matchups. The over-under is 38.5, another low over-under for fantasy. The Cleveland Browns are 2.5-point favorites. With Deontay Johnson going down, I think George Pickens sees an uptick in targets, obviously. I think he's a good play this week. Lock him in as a wide receiver, too. Pat Fryermuth, of course, a top 10 tight end. And Najee Harris should have a pretty good day on the ground as well. On the Cleveland side of the ball, Amari Cooper injured his groin today in practice, so that's something to monitor. He is now questionable for Monday night. Throws a wrench in your lineup because at that point you have nobody to pivot to really. If he does happen to miss the game and Donovan Peoples-Jones is someone that's on your waiver wire, I would snag him up. Throw Amari Cooper in your IR if he's rolled out. Pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones and put him in your lineup. That's the only real pivot that you can make on a Monday night game, and that's the only pivot I'm comfortable making. You're starting Njoku, you're starting Chubb. Elijah Moore is someone that you can start in a deeper league at flex. He's not a start that I'm really comfortable in, but he's a start that I'm willing to make. All right, and now to get into my DFS starts. This week, my lineup is looking a lot like players that I've been high on all week. At quarterback, we got Anthony Richardson. We talked about him yesterday on my start of the week. In general, for fantasy, his salary is coming in at 6,300, and for a quarterback, that's exactly where you want it. Someone that has the ability to just completely dominate, but also coming in at relatively cheap. At running back, I want Saquon Barkley. This is a running back that I'm, like I said a little bit earlier, is poised to have a really big breakout game, bounce back game, get right game, whatever you want to call it. I think he goes for over 100 yards rushing, probably over 20 receiving, and I predict he gets into the end zone twice, at least once, though. My wide receiver start of the week for DFS this week is Jahan Dotson. I think Scary Terry is going to be covered by Pat Surtain, and I think that's going to leave a lot of opportunities for Jahan Dotson to get into the end zone against what is a very beatable Denver Broncos defense. I do think Denver Broncos defense is a really good start this week, but I do also think, on the contrary to that, that Jahan Dotson, if any wide receiver for the Commanders are going to have a big game, it's going to be Jahan Dotson. And at his price point of only 4,900, I think that's a great value. That's where you can go in and get another tier one running back, such as a Christian McCaffrey, and still have enough available to fill out your wide receivers. So there's a world where you can have Anthony Richardson, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Jahan Dotson on your same DFS team. I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but if that's how you feel to do it, that's very possible with choosing Jahan Dotson. I think his value this week is great. My tight end start of the week for DFS is Luke Musgrave. If you heard me at any of my other episodes, you know that I'm really high on him. I think that he's going to have a really good game, respectively, with Christian Watson trending towards being out. He was just missed on a few deep bombs last week. I think they connect this week. I think he gets into the end zone, and I think he finishes as probably a top seven tight end. And at 3,200 for DFS, that's a really great value. That's where you can go in and get another wide receiver to complement Jahan Dotson or maybe solidify your flex spot. And my defensive start of the week this week is the New York Jets coming in at 2,700. This is a very cheap defense that is really good at getting to the quarterback and causing incompletions, causing turnovers. It's something that Dak has struggled with in the past. I know last week they didn't have to do much on offense to solidify their win, but I didn't like what I saw from their new play calling. I think they're going to play a little bit slower this year, hand the ball to Pollard. I don't think that this is a week that Pollard is going to be a reliable fantasy back. This is just a really, really good, solid defense, and they're really undervalued at 2,700. I think that's a good defensive start for you this week where you can really solidify the rest of your lineup and maybe even go get a more expensive wide receiver than Jahan Dotson. So, yeah, I hope this helps you win a little bit of money this week. Again, these are my DFS picks. Really good value for what you're getting is what I'm going for. So, I hope that y'all find this very helpful. I hope y'all win some money. And if you do, be sure to slide me some cash for helping y'all out. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope this helps y'all set y'all's lineups this morning. Don't forget to check the injury report. Remember to keep an eye on Amari Cooper. He is a Monday night game. Just be ready to throw in another wide receiver or flex play if you need to. Put Amari Cooper in your flex position so that you're not just limited to wide receiver. You could throw a running back in there as well for Monday night.